The long and embarrassing journey of Tammy Sytch, from sex symbol to evil goblin, looks like it may finally be complete. She was due in court tomorrow for the start of her DUI manslaughter trial in the death of a 75-year-old man last year named Julian Lassiter. She was behind the wheel of a car that she was not legally supposed to be driving when she crashed into the back of a stopped car at an intersection, which led to the man's death. At the time of the accident, she had a blood alcohol content of 0.280, 3.5 times the legal limit in the state of Florida. And this was hardly her first DUI offense or her first brush with the law. This was predictable and completely avoidable is what this was. So on the eve of her trial date on Wednesday, she pleaded no contest to DUI causing death and other charges. She had originally entered a plea of not guilty in May of last year, which is standard for most defendants. That gives them time to work with their lawyers, to prepare their case, and figure out what their next move is going to be. She changed that plea on Wednesday to no contest as part of an agreement with prosecutors. And this is from a story in the Daytona Beach News-Journal. WWE Hall of Famer Tammy Sytch pleaded no contest Wednesday to DUI causing death and other charges in a fatal crash and could face up to 25.5 years in prison when she is sentenced at a later date. Sytch, age 50, had entered a plea of not guilty on May 31, 2022, to the same charges stemming from a deadly traffic crash in Ormond Beach. She changed that plea Wednesday as part of an agreement with prosecutors. Sytch has been held without bond on pretrial detention at the Volusia County Branch Jail since May 13, 2022. Sytch, wearing the customary orange jail jumpsuit, was led into court and took a seat in front of the defense table. Her hands were cuffed, as is also routine during inmates' court appearances. When her name was called, she stood with her lawyers in front of Circuit Judge Karen Foxman, who asked what her plea was, and she said no contest. The judge asked a number of routine questions as part of the plea hearing. In response, Sytch said that she had almost graduated from college. In response to another question, Sytch said that she had been diagnosed with some disorders, including PTSD, borderline personality disorder, and bipolar disorder. She said among the medications she was taking was Prozac, an antidepressant. At the time of the accident, Sytch had a blood alcohol content of 0.280, 3.5 times the legal limit of 0.08 set by Florida law. Police also found an unsealed bottle of vodka in her car. A test also detected THC in her blood, indicating that she had been using marijuana sometime before the crash, according to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. In addition to DUI causing death, she was charged with one count of driving with a suspended, revoked license causing death or serious injury. The first charge is a second-degree felony punishable by up to 15 years in prison, while the suspended driving charge is a third-degree felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison. That would mean up to 20 years in prison. But Assistant State Attorney Ashley Terwilliger said during the hearing that she would be arguing a new case law sets a maximum prison sentence of just over 10 years on the second-degree felony, which would make the possible maximum total just over 25 years. Sytch was also charged with 4 counts of DUI with damage to person and 2 counts of DUI with damage to property. Each of the 6 counts is a first-degree misdemeanor punishable by up to 364 days in the county jail. And as part of the agreement, Sytch would be sentenced to time served on those 6 counts, and the sentences would run concurrently. One of the charges also carries a 4-year minimum. Sytch has multiple prior charges of driving under the influence and driving with a suspended license in Pennsylvania. And she has never held a valid Florida driver's license. Assistant Public Defenders Jessica Lindsay Roberts and Larry Avalone represented Sytch. Roberts said during the hearing that she planned to call 1 or possibly 2 experts to testify on behalf of Sytch at the sentencing. Roberts also said that she would file a motion arguing why Sytch should be allowed to receive a lower sentence than listed by the sentencing guidelines. Outside the courtroom after the hearing, Lassiter's family and friends embraced Terwilliger. Family members declined to comment, but one of Lassiter's friends, Lori Charlo, said that Sytch was a threat to the public and she hoped that she would be kept off the streets. That friend is absolutely right. This woman is a menace to society and has no business being out free to roam the streets. And if all she was doing was roaming, it might not be so bad, but she doesn't roam. She drives. She gets behind the wheel of a 2-ton vehicle and she acts like she's playing Grand Theft Auto. She should not be out. Not unless it's on the inside of a bus transporting prisoners. Her pleading no contest is as good as a guilty plea. The evidence against her was overwhelming. She actually has 2 public defenders working her case after her legal team quit in June of last year. There was another public defender who got assigned to her, who also kind of pieced out a month later. They didn't want to have anything to do with this woman. I don't blame them. Another big reason, other than avoiding a trial, for her to plead no contest to the charges, as opposed to pleading guilty, is, to my knowledge, the effect that it would have on any outstanding civil suits against her. And she has 2 of them pending against her right now. The victim's family filed suit against her and her boyfriend last year, seeking damages in excess of $100,000 for negligence in the man's death. Tammy and her lawyers filed a motion to dismiss, which still might be pending. I'm not sure if it was ever denied, but the suit hasn't been thrown out. In fact, a second suit was filed against her in March by a woman who was a passenger in another car that was struck in the accident. That woman is suing Tammy, her boyfriend, and Geico Insurance. And that suit is seeking $50,000 in damages. Had Tammy pled guilty to the charges against her, I know in some cases that could be used against her in those civil suits. Pleading no contest has the same effect as pleading guilty, but without an admission of guilt, it can't be used against her in a civil case. So I wouldn't be surprised if that had a lot to do with this. But 25 years. 25 years is the maximum sentence that Tammy Sytch is now facing. A minimum of 10.5 years, but a maximum of 25.5. And I hope she has to serve out every day of those 25 years. You know, last year, it was episode 745 of The Sound Off, when I talked about Tammy getting arrested for the second time in less than 6 weeks on a whole host of charges, right, including DUI and driving with a suspended or revoked license. That was in the state of New Jersey. And I made the comment that she is never going to learn until somebody gets killed. And I asked the question, is that what it's going to take? Because I thought that is what it is going to take to finally get through to this woman. 1 month later, she killed someone. And then came 9 more charges in Florida on top of the 11 that are still pending against her in New Jersey. At no time has this woman ever demonstrated even the slightest hint of genuine remorse over this or anything that she has ever done. In the Dark Side of the Ring episode this season on Chris and Tammy, they played the audio of her laughing about having had 7 DUIs at whatever time that was that was recorded. She was only getting warmed up back then. That was like batting practice for her. This has always been very amusing to Tammy. She has no regard for anyone but herself. No compassion, no empathy for others. It is impossible for me to feel sorry for this woman. License or no license. If she was to ever get out, I guarantee you she would end up behind the wheel again and history would repeat itself. And it isn't just driving. Go back to 2012. She was arrested 5 times in a 4-week span for disorderly conduct and burglary and violating a restraining order. Since that year, she has been arrested at least 19 times. So you can say it's a shame to see someone throw their life away the way that she has. I say it's a shame that someone is dead. Because the system is so broken when it comes to these types of offenses and how lenient these people are dealt with, that it only enables them and encourages them to keep doing it. This is a systemic problem that needs to be addressed. But for now, at least this person is locked up and is not able to hurt anybody else. And for that, we should all be grateful. Her sentencing is November 27th, so we'll find out then how long she'll be put away for.